Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Welcome back. So today we're finally finishing the axles. I know that it's been a long, boring last couple of days, couple of videos. But you know, it is what it is. That's what I got going on right now. But like I said, I think I finally got this ready to the point that we will finish them today, and then we can finally get started on actually mounting them on the truck, which I'm super excited for. So anyways, let's get to it. So the plan today is to go from this to at least this. So we're gonna throw the new dust seals on the axles. We're gonna throw the actual axle shafts in, the unit bearings, and that should be it. Like I said, after that we'll be ready. All I gotta do is throw the brakes back on. But you've already seen me do the rears, and you don't really gotta see me do the brakes all over again for the front. They should be fairly similar. And we're gonna start by basically rebuilding our axle shafts. Putting a new unit bearing on this thing, new seals, also new U-joints, and that should have our axles basically being brand new. And it's fairly simple. Let me show you. So now, if you did like I did and removed your axle shafts and your unit bearing all as one unit, at this point we will take off, actually separate the unit bearing from the axle shafts. And that's fairly simple. All we're gonna do is remove the 3 screws. Now with the 3 screws removed, we can go ahead and pop off the actual lockout hub. Now there's a little dowel pin on here. There we go. So you see that there's a little dowel pin in there, so it won't spin sideways, so you gotta try and push it out. Now, like you saw me do, I used a screwdriver and gently pried it open like that. That worked really well. So now that we have the actual lockout hub out, we have to get to that snap ring in there, right there, and that is a pain to get out and put back in. And basically the only way that you'll get to it is with a pretty special, well, not special, but they're not like your typical AutoZone or O'Reilly's auto parts store snap ring pliers. You actually need some long reach pliers, and I got these off of Amazon, like I get most of my things. I really love that site. So these I'll have in the description below. If you want to get yourself a pair of those, these are super handy. Like I said, these will go in deep enough to actually get to that snap ring. And let's get it out real quick. It's a pain. I really can't imagine doing this without these pliers. Can't even get it open. There we go. Now this thing is a beefy snap ring. I don't know if you can tell, but that is almost an eighth thick. Like this thing is beefy, and it takes a lot of force. That's why you need a good pair of long reach snap ring pliers. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this down in the description below. And that's basically it. That's basically all it takes to get this hub out. After that, you just gotta pull it out. Oh, also it helps if you don't have any nuts holding it. There we go. And that right there is your unit bearing, or whatever these things are called, and your axle shafts. So now I have some brand new unit bearings that we're gonna be throwing on this thing. So I'm not gonna be reusing these. Although, to be honest with you, they looked in pretty decent shape. I might just keep this, you know, just for spares or for backup. The next step is gonna be removing this seal from our little shaft right here, which should be pretty easy. Like I said, pretty easy. Now, these seals, Their sole purpose is basically for the automatic 4x4 control on these trucks. Since they are vacuum operated, these are supposed to, you know, seal the vacuum in there so that they actually work. So on our trucks, since we're going to be swapping, you know, I'm not going to be swapping that system over to my truck, they're not really necessary. So basically what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to swap these axles and you're not going to swap the automatic hubs, you don't really need to replace this seal, especially if it's in good shape. Now, if your truck, if you're still working on a newer truck that does have the automatic lockout hubs, you definitely need to replace this seal if you're going to be in there, because they're not reusable. As far as, or at least as far as I know, they're not reusable. Like I said, the next step's going to be replacing these U-joints, and the first step to that is removing these little lock clips that go on the inside of your U-joints. Now that's pretty simple. They sit in here basically kind of like this, facing the inside. All you gotta do is grab your little screwdriver and punch them out. It's pretty simple. Let me show you. You locate your snap ring. Mine is right here. Take your screwdriver or whatever other device you might want to use to punch them out. You know, like I also got this. Oh, this thing's being stubborn. I flipped it around to be able to get up behind it and hopefully pry it out. This thing's being a little bit more stubborn than all the other ones that I've done. There we go. That one was really in there, as you can see. It got a little bent, but we got it out. And like I said, that one's actually the one that's giving me the most trouble so far. All the other ones have been super easy to get out. So let's try this other side and see how that one comes out. Maybe that one will be a little bit easier. Usually they even like fly out. So that one's a little bit more stubborn than the rest. See, told you they fly out. So be careful. Now, the way that I'm gonna get these out, and this is how we're gonna get it out. So we got it off the floor with some 2x4s, gave it enough room underneath for that cap to come down. And then I'm gonna be using a 1-inch rod to drive it down. Now you can use whatever you can find, a socket on an extension. Just, you know, be aware that if you beat on the extension or the socket, you might ruin them. But I've always had this little rod. You know, I actually encourage you guys to buy stuff like this because, you know, it comes in handy when it comes to doing stuff like that. But basically what we're gonna do is beat this down far enough to get this cap off, but don't beat it down all the way. You know, make sure you can leave a little bit because we're gonna drive it back the other way out. Let me show you. It worked. It was a pain. Like I said, it wasn't very gracious at all, but we got it out. And what we ended up doing is grabbing a piece from that ball joint press, and we put it under the U-joint right here. That way all the force was going straight into that U-joint, into the cap, and driving it out. So we drove one side out, flipped it around, drove it the other way, took the cap off, and now this thing's out just like that. Now we're gonna do this other one, which should be just as fun. So I'll check back in once that is out. Okay guys, and just like that, we got both of these ready. I don't know if you can see, but we got them all cleaned out, deburred, basically on the edges, both outside and inside, deburred. And then I filed down this edge a little bit so that the new clips can slide in there really nice and good. Same for this side. We cleaned out where the seals are gonna go, the splines, same on that side. So these things are ready to go. And basically what we gotta do now is just start reassembling. So let's do that. Okay, so with our new U-joints, we're gonna start with putting it on one side. And to do that, all you gotta do is just take off 2 opposing caps. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, basically take 2 opposing side caps. These things are really in there. There we go. And then you're gonna slide it in. And then with this slid in, before you put the cap on, make sure that all the needle bearings are in place. Once you've confirmed that they are, slide it in place. Same with the other side. Make sure that all your needle bearings are, in place, nice and laying down. Slide it in from the other side. And then we're gonna go ahead and press it. Now for this thing, we can actually use our bearing press. And just like that, it's in. Now, it might be a little bit tight. To fix that, all you gotta do is grab a hammer and tap. And that should loosen it out quite a bit. There we go. So now, we'll take our clips and put them in place. There we go. There's one. And there's the other. Now one thing that I like doing with these things is I always like coming back with a screwdriver and hitting it in a couple spots just to be sure that it seats all the way properly, Sometimes they don't quite sit perfectly. Like this one was a little bit out. And now basically we gotta do the same thing for this side, but it's the same thing, so I'll just show you once I'm done with the whole thing. And there you go. A completely rebuilt U-joint. It looks great. And now, so after you get to this point, you would obviously go ahead and fill out your U-joint with grease. And then now we're gonna go to the next step, which is gonna be on the vise. Okay, so what we're gonna do is put on the seal for this thing, the vacuum seal or whatever you wanna call it, that goes on this shaft. Now, like I said, we don't really need the seal on our truck because like I said, we're not gonna be using the vacuum actuated hubs. At least I'm not. But like I said, I still feel like you do need them because it'll keep dirt, mud, rust, all these things outside of your hub, which is something that you definitely need. And to set these things in place, you actually need a special tool, which is this. It makes the job super easy, and you use these to set the seal in place right here on the shaft. And then once you have the shaft and everything in the axle, it actually helps you set the axle in place on the knuckle. So this is pretty easy. I like to set the seal in place by hand and then looking all the way around and making sure that it's nice and square. So once you see that it's square, I'll grab the tool, set it in, and then give it a couple more hits just to be 100% sure that it's nice and square. And then once you get it at that point, that's where the fun really starts, because you'll get your big old beater and just start hammering all the way down. So I don't know if you were able to hear, but you can definitely notice a change in tone as soon as you get to where it is properly seated. And it's gonna be really hard to see, but it doesn't actually sit all the way down on the ledge, on that little edge, that it has. It's about a 1/16 or so above that, but that's where you want it. And like I said, this tool won't let you go any further down than where it's supposed to be at. So now that we have this seal on, we're gonna go ahead and take the axle shaft and everything and shove it inside our axle. Before we do that though, we're actually gonna install the little seal that goes in here, that little dust seal. And that's pretty easy, especially with that tool that I showed you in the previous video that I made. If not, I'll show you what I got real quick. So this is the tool that I told you that I got. So it's basically a 1-inch screw pipe. It is 2 feet long. And then we got a and then we have a floor flange on here. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna fit inside of our seal. And I actually grinded the edge of it down to a point where it'll fit inside of this line perfectly. So see this little lip? It's gonna fit right in there perfectly. And that's gonna push on this. It's gonna push on this, setting it inside of the axle. So hopefully that made sense. The next thing you wanna do is clean this lip right here perfectly. Make sure you go all the way around and that there's nothing on there. Get it all nice and clean, because this is where that new seal is actually gonna sit on. So you wanna make sure that it's completely clear, that there's nothing that's gonna, you know, hold it up or whatever. So now with your seal in place, make sure that it's nice and centered, and then grab your tool and just give it some wax until it seats in there properly. And then once you've done that, go ahead and inspect all the way around. Make sure that it's nice and square and that you can see that it went all the way in. If it didn't, if there was like a little corner or like a little part of it that didn't go in, grab your tool again, put pressure on whatever side didn't go in, and just give it a whack. And there we go. That thing is looking pretty solid. Now, if you're wondering what this red stuff is, it's actually a little bit of sealant that I used on there. Just to give it that little bit of extra protection against water or whatever might, you know, want to seep in through there. And now one more thing that we're gonna do before we throw this in is actually try to sand this down as much as we can. You know, try and take all this rust and stuff off of it. Okay guys, we're almost ready. We're basically ready. All I did after I cleaned the shaft, actually let me show you. As you can see, the shaft is nice and clean. I did put some grease on a couple spots on the shaft and on the seal just to make it easier to slide in. And then after I did that, I went ahead, I filed down this face right here just to try and get rid of any burrs or anything, you know, any paints or rust or anything that might be on this that won't let that new hub sit on here evenly. So I filed that down with the file. And then I went inside of here, cleaned it out, make sure that there was no rust, nothing on there. And you know, make sure that everything looked good. And everything does look good now. So what we're gonna do is bring that shaft, slide it in, tap it in with that tool that I showed you, and we'll be ready to rock. So now, we're gonna be careful not to damage that first seal. There we go. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Gonna slide it all the way in. Try and get it through that inner seal. There we go. There we go. So now with this big old tool that I had shown you earlier, we're gonna drive this thing the rest of the way in. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I made sure that our shaft had good engagement with our carrier, because you don't want to be you know, banging this if it's not properly engaged. But I already checked and it's good. So now we got our tool on here. We'll grab our beater and then just start, you know, giving it hell. And there we go. This thing is properly set in place. You can definitely hear once this thing has bottomed out. But if I can get this thing back in there. But anyways, I'm not gonna struggle with it. But basically, once it's in, you'll be able to tell, because this lip will hit on this face, and it'll be properly set in place. Everything looks really good. And now let me show you the new unit bearings that I got. Okay, so this here is our new unit. It's a Detroit axle unit bearing. And these things should be pretty good quality, and they were at a pretty decent price as well. Let me pull it out of the box so you can actually see it. So this is what you get. You get the new unit bearing. It comes with all the studs, the wheel studs, as well as the studs to actually hold the unit bearing in place. It comes with the ABS wire and sensor, even though we're not gonna be using it. This is one thing though that I've heard online, that people complain about this thing, that this sensor doesn't work. But again, we're not gonna be using this sensor on our truck, so we don't worry about that. It also comes with the snap clip, C-clip, whatever you wanna call this thing. One thing though, this thing did fail on the other side. It completely snapped into 3 pieces. So I was pretty disappointed about that. Luckily, I still had the other one, which I'm actually gonna reuse this one for this side too, because I don't trust these, you know? I'm pretty sure that if this one cracked the way that it did, that one probably will too. And I don't want that happening once it's on the truck. But this one will work just fine. So now I'm just gonna install the studs into it and take out the sensor, the ABS sensor, and then throw it on the truck. Okay guys, and just like that, we're ready to throw this thing on. And it's really not that bad. It slides usually right in. So now we're gonna go ahead and throw some nuts on this thing. Now the only thing that kind of sucks about this is it doesn't come with any new nuts, but it's okay, we can just reuse our old ones. And now we're gonna carefully drive it in the rest of the way with an impact. Okay, and now the fun part, putting the snap ring back in there. Now, I use a few different tools for this. Obviously the pliers that I already told you about, and a hammer and a screwdriver. Now with these things, the way that I like putting them in is with the flat edge facing in towards the axle, and the little bit more rounded edge facing out. So, I'm gonna put that on there, open it, and then grab a screwdriver. Hold it in there. It didn't work. Did it? Nope, it didn't work. So basically what I do is I open it all the way, set it in there, and with my screwdriver, hold it, and then pull my pliers out. And then I'll come back in with the hammer and tap it in. That's the easiest way that I found to do this. So once you have it in place, like I said, we'll grab our screwdriver, and then just tap it in the rest of the way. There we go. And then just go around tapping it just to make sure that it's set properly.
Okay, sorry about that. The battery died on me, and I kept working, and I basically finished this entire thing, and it looks good, man. Like, I can't believe that I did all this. It looks good, it feels good. You know, I think we'll be all right. So basically, we got, like I said, everything put back together. We threw the brakes back on. I painted them, knee pads. Those are good. And one thing that I forgot, and make sure you guys don't forget this, you know, don't do what I did. I totally forgot to put the dust shield back on when I was doing all of this. So make sure you don't do that, because I had to take the brakes back off, take this back off, and pull the unit bearing out to be able to put this back over it. So make sure you don't do that. And my dumb self did both sides, which, you know, wasn't that bad. It took me like 10 minutes to do both sides. But, you know, it's something that you don't want to do. You know, it's an extra inconvenience that you don't want to do. We also threw on a new track bar ball joint. That was fun. And we filled the diff with fluid. And also, obviously, we threw on a lube blocker, gasket on there. I'm pretty excited about those things. You know, if they're as good as they say they are, you know, we should be in pretty good shape. Like I said, I really like them, and I'll leave a link to them down in the description down below. We also got this, a Tecton torque wrench, and this thing is nice, man. Like, let me tell you, it's freaking nice. So this goes all the way from I believe 20 foot-pounds, 25 foot-pounds, all the way up to 250. And this is super nice. This feels as nice as any snap-on torque wrench that I've ever used. And I used to use quite a few snap-on wrenches back in my day. And this thing is nice. Like I said, it feels just as good at it as they do. It's got really nice clear, you know, like marks down here. The actual dial is really nice. The function is really good. And we're gonna be doing a lot of torquing over the next few days over here, a few weeks. So I wanted, you know, a decent torque wrench, and I really feel that this is really gonna be good for us. I'll also leave a link to it down below if you wanna check one out. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it for this video, guys. It already went on super long. You know, like I said, I hope you're enjoying these. I know that they're pretty boring, but the next few videos are gonna be, you know, getting ready to actually start the swap, which should be the really exciting stuff, and I can't wait to do that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, let me know if you liked it. You know, leave a like, leave a comment with any questions you might have, and we'll see you for the next one.